How often have you felt stuck by your own thoughts or limits? What if you could break free from the barriers holding you back? Thinking beyond limits is not about magic or luck. It is about shifting your mindset to see new possibilities where before you saw walls. Many people want success, freedom, and confidence, but don't realize that it all starts with how they think. When you learn to push past fear and doubt, you open doors to opportunities you never imagined. This video will show you practical ways to expand your thinking, challenge your beliefs, and build a mindset that empowers you to reach higher than ever before. Imagine feeling unstoppable because your mind is your greatest tool, not your enemy. If you're ready to break free from old patterns and unlock your true potential, then let's dive in. Chapter 1. Question everything you were taught to believe. You were born into a world that already had a set of rules. People told you what was right and wrong, what you should do and shouldn't do, what success looks like and how far you could go. They gave you labels, set expectations, and quietly boxed you in without even asking who you were or what you wanted. And most of the time, we believed it. Not because we were weak, not because we were lazy, but because we didn't know we could question it. We trusted the voices around us, our teachers, our parents, society, and most of them meant well. They told us to stay safe, to follow the path, to not make too much noise. And in the process, they taught us to think small. They handed us limits as if they were facts. But here's what you have to understand now. Limits are not facts. They are beliefs. And beliefs can be changed. When you start questioning the things you were taught to believe, you don't become disrespectful. You become free. That's the moment when your mind opens up, and you realize you've been living inside a cage with the door wide open. You don't have to stay there, but you won't walk out of it until you ask, why do I believe this? Where did it come from? And is it even true for me? So ask yourself, who told you that you couldn't do great things? Who told you that your background would define your future? Who told you that only certain people get to win in life? Who told you that dreams are only for the lucky ones, or the gifted ones, or the chosen few? Because none of that is real. The truth is, you've been carrying around ideas that were never yours to begin with. And when you finally see that, when you realize that half the things holding you back are just inherited fears and opinions, you begin to take your power back. That's when thinking beyond limits starts. Not by trying to be a superhero, but by questioning the invisible chains that have been wrapped around your thoughts for years. Start simple. When someone says, that's just the way it is, pause. Ask why. Ask how they know. Challenge the idea. Because when people say that, what they usually mean is, that's the way it has always been. And just because something has been a certain way doesn't mean it should stay that way. If that were true, we'd still be riding horses instead of driving cars. We'd still be lighting candles instead of flipping on a switch. We wouldn't have medicine, space travel, or even the internet. Progress didn't happen because someone accepted the world as it was. It happened because someone questioned it. And you can do that too. In your own life. Look at your thoughts about money, success, relationships, education, failure, confidence. Did you really decide those beliefs for yourself, or did someone else hand them to you when you were too young to say no? It's okay if the answer surprises you. That's the point. Growth always starts with awareness, and you can't change what you're not willing to face. You have to go back and look at the ideas that shaped you, because if you don't, those same ideas will keep shaping your life. They'll keep you stuck. They'll keep you repeating the same patterns, going in circles, wondering why things never change. But once you become conscious of those ideas, you start to shift. And that shift, it changes everything. It gives you the space to imagine something new. And when you can imagine it, you can move toward it. You weren't meant to live in fear. You weren't made to be average. You were given a mind for a reason, not just to accept the world, but to shape it, to question it, to rebuild it better than before. And that starts inside you. Ask yourself this: what belief is keeping me small? What thought comes up when I dream big? What voice inside says, that's not for you? That voice was taught to you. You didn't come into this world doubting yourself. You learned it. And if you learned it, you can unlearn it. You need to know that you're not broken. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just carrying too many ideas that don't serve you anymore. And it's time to put them down. If someone told you that you're not smart enough, strong enough, talented enough, you can choose not to carry that anymore. You're allowed to rewrite the story. You don't have to wait for the world to give you permission. You don't need someone to approve your dreams. The minute you decide to think beyond the limits you were taught, the minute you choose to question everything that's held you back, you step into real power. The kind of power that can't be taken from you because it doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. That's how leaders are made. Not by following the rules, but by questioning them. Not by doing what's expected, but by doing what's necessary. Not by blending in, but by standing up and saying, I'm not going to let fear decide for me anymore. You are more than you were told. You are stronger than you were raised to believe. And the future is not written yet. You can shape it. But first you have to free your mind from the limits that were planted there. You have to choose to think higher, think bigger, think beyond the boundaries of your past. Because those limits, they were never real. They were just borrowed thoughts. Now it's time to give them back. You don't need them anymore. Because you're not here to live someone else's idea of what life should be. You're here to build your own. Start now. Start by questioning. Start by thinking for yourself. And when you do that, you open the door to a life that's not just possible, but yours. Chapter 2. Break routines that keep your mind stuck. Every day you wake up and follow the same pattern. You check your phone, brush your teeth, eat the same breakfast, take the same route, talk to the same people, think the same thoughts, and go to bed wondering why nothing feels different. This routine, this autopilot mode, it may feel comfortable, but it's not helping you grow. It's keeping your mind exactly where it is, locked in the same loop. And as long as your routine stays the same, your thinking will stay the same. The problem with routines is not that they exist. Routines can be helpful, but when they become unconscious habits that you follow without questioning, they start to control your life instead of supporting it. They turn into invisible walls, keeping you trapped in old patterns, old fears, and outdated beliefs. And here's the truth. If you want to think beyond limits, you cannot keep living in a way that reinforces them. Your mind was not designed to be put on repeat. It needs challenge. It needs space to explore. But that can't happen when everything you do is predictable. Comfort feels good in the moment, but growth never happens in comfort. You don't have to burn your life down to break free, but you do need to interrupt the patterns that keep your thinking stuck. Start by noticing what you do without thinking. Pay attention to the things you do just because you always have. Look closely at your mornings, your conversations, your free time. Ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is this keeping me in place? Most people never ask that question. They just keep moving, day after day, never realizing they're not moving forward, they're just going in circles. The mind needs variety. It needs new experiences to stretch itself. That's how it breaks out of old thinking. When you step outside what's familiar, your brain has to wake up. It has to adapt. That's when new ideas come in. That's when you feel alive again. But that won't happen if your days all look the same. So change them. Break the cycle. You don't have to flip your whole life upside down. Even small shifts can wake the mind up. Talk to someone new. Ask a question you've never asked. Learn something you never thought about. Spend time in silence. Go outside without your phone. Interrupt your own rhythm. Give your mind something unfamiliar to deal with. Because the moment your routine gets shaken, your awareness gets stronger. And that awareness, that's the beginning of real change. There's a reason people feel stuck in life. It's because their actions and thoughts repeat too often. And repetition without intention is how we lose ourselves. We stop thinking critically. We stop asking deeper questions. We just react. We just repeat. But you're not here to live the same day over and over again. You're here to evolve. You're here to rise. And that begins when you get uncomfortable on purpose. Not because pain is noble, but because growth requires discomfort. It's part of the deal. You stretch your body to grow stronger. You stretch your mind the same way. So be willing to do what doesn't feel easy. Be willing to question how you spend your time. Be willing to give up the habits that feel safe, but are secretly holding you back. It's not just about action. It's about intention. When you live on autopilot, your thoughts become dull. You stop noticing the details. You stop being curious. But when you live with intention, you bring energy back into your life. You become present. And presence is power, because when you're fully here, fully awake, your choices carry more weight. Your actions have more meaning. Your direction becomes clear. So don't wait for life to force change on you. Don't wait for pain or crisis to shake you out of routine. You can choose to disrupt it now. You can take back control before life does it for you. That's strength. That's self-leadership. That's how you reclaim your mind. Look around. Most people are not failing because of a lack of potential. They're failing because they keep doing the same things expecting a different result. But that doesn't have to be your story. You can decide right now that your life is not meant to be on repeat. You can choose to change the way you live, so you can change the way you think. You don't have to follow the same routine every morning just because it's what you've always done. You don't have to keep thinking the same thoughts just because they feel familiar. Every moment is a chance to shift. Every choice is a chance to step outside the old and into something new. But you have to want it. You have to care enough about your future to challenge your present. Nothing changes until you change what you do every day. And once you do that, your whole identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as stuck. You stop acting like a victim of your habits. You start seeing yourself as someone with power, someone with the ability to shape their world. And that belief, it changes how you show up. It changes what you tolerate. It changes how far you go. So break the routines that keep your mind stuck. Not just to feel busy, but to wake up. To wake up to what's possible. To wake up to who you really are underneath the layers of repetition and predictability. You are not your habits. You are not your past. You are the one who decides what comes next. When you break free from automatic living, your imagination opens up again. You see opportunities that were invisible before. You notice the beauty in places you ignored. You become inspired, not by chance, but by choice. Because you made space for it. You made room for something different. So go do something different. Be intentional. Break the pattern. Don't let routine trap your greatness. Your future isn't written in stone. It's written by your daily decisions. And when you start choosing differently, you start thinking differently. And that right there is how you rise beyond limits. Chapter 3. Challenge thoughts that start with "I can't." There's a voice that creeps into your mind when you're about to try something new, something bigger than what you're used to. It whispers quietly at first, then louder as you begin to move forward. And it always starts the same way. I can't. It shows up when you want to grow, when you want to lead, when you want to change. That thought, "I can't," has stopped more dreams than failure ever has. Not because it's true, but because we believe it without a fight. You're not born saying "I can't." Watch any child. They try everything. They fall, they fail, but they keep going because no one's told them yet that they can't. That belief, "I can't," is learned. It's passed down from experience, from fear, from the voices around us. And once it takes hold, it starts to shape your decisions, your actions, your entire view of yourself. It becomes a filter. You don't just think it, you start to live by it. And over time, it becomes your truth. Even if it's a lie. If you want to think beyond limits, you must confront that thought every time it shows up. Not with frustration, not with shame, but with awareness. When you catch yourself saying "I can't," pause. Ask yourself where that thought is coming from. Who told you that? What experience planted that belief? Was it a past failure, a painful comment, a moment where you didn't succeed right away? And most importantly, is it actually true, or just something you never challenged? When people say "I can't," what they often mean is "I haven't figured out how yet." But instead of being honest with ourselves, we settle into those 3 words like they're permanent. I can't speak in front of people. I can't start that business. I can't change my life. But the truth is, you can do a lot more than you think, if you're willing to break the mental pattern that keeps you boxed in. The words you say to yourself matter more than you realize. Every time you say "I can't," your brain shuts down its options. It stops looking for answers. It puts up a wall. But when you shift even slightly, when you say "maybe I can figure it out," or "what if I could," everything changes. Your brain starts searching. It starts working for you, not against you. That one shift opens a door where there used to be a wall. You don't need to have all the answers right now, but you do need to believe that answers exist, and you won't find them by repeating the same old doubts. Growth begins when you catch your limiting thoughts in real time and refuse to accept them without proof. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it's true. Your job is to challenge it. Test it. Push back. Don't give your mind the final word without questioning it. Think back to something you once thought you couldn't do, but you ended up doing it. Maybe it was learning a new skill, recovering from a setback, or facing a fear. That's proof. That's evidence that "I can't" was wrong before, and it might be wrong again now. You are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for, but only if you stop making "I can't" the end of the sentence. Here's a better question to ask when "I can't" shows up. What would I need to learn, change, or practice to make this possible? That question puts you in control. It puts your mind to work. It moves you from powerless to powerful. It takes you out of fear and into action. And action, even small, shaky action, is how you start proving the doubt wrong. Most of the time, what we fear is not that we truly can't, but that we'll try and fall short. That we'll be judged, laughed at, misunderstood. And so we hide behind "I can't," because it feels safer than trying and being seen. But that safety is an illusion. The real risk is not in trying and failing, it's in never trying at all. Because every time you shrink yourself with "I can't," you lose a little more belief in your own ability. And over time, that loss becomes heavy. It builds regret. It steals your energy. It keeps you stuck. So start noticing your language. Pay attention to how often "I can't" shows up in your thinking. Don't ignore it, face it. Speak directly to it. Say, "That's a thought, not a fact. That's fear, not truth." And then go do something that challenges it. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be small. What matters is that you interrupt the pattern. You choose action over avoidance. You decide to step forward, even if it's uncomfortable. Because every time you challenge a limiting thought, you take your power back. You prove to yourself that you are not your fears. You are not your doubts. You are not your past. You are the person who decides what happens next. You may not control every thought that enters your mind, but you do control what you do with it. And when you take a thought like "I can't" and shine the light of truth on it, it begins to lose its grip. It starts to fall apart. And underneath it you find courage you didn't know you had. There is a version of you that doesn't say "I can't." There's a version of you that says, "I'm willing to try. I'm learning. I'm getting stronger. I'm figuring it out." That version of you already exists. You just have to stop silencing it with old stories. You have to give it space to speak. And then you have to listen. Don't wait for perfect confidence. Don't wait for certainty. That day won't come. You get stronger by doing. You get braver by showing up. You get better by moving forward, even when your mind tells you it's not possible. This is how you build a new mindset. One step at a time, by replacing "I can't" with "What if I could?" By replacing fear with curiosity. By replacing avoidance with effort. And if you keep doing that, day after day, something changes deep inside you. You start to believe in yourself. You start to feel alive again. You start to move through life, not with doubt, but with direction. So don't let "I can't" be your story. Don't let it decide your limits. That thought has nothing to do with who you truly are. You are capable. You are resourceful. You are full of untapped strength. And when you rise up to meet the voice of doubt with action and intention, you become someone who refuses to be defined by fear. Your mind will try to protect you with those words. It will try to keep you safe in the comfort zone. But safe doesn't build dreams. Safe doesn't unlock greatness. Challenge every thought that tries to limit you. Step over every doubt that says you're not enough. Because on the other side of "I can't" is a life that only you can build, and you can start building it now. Chapter 4. Surround yourself with big thinkers only. The people you spend the most time with shape your life more than you realize. Their thoughts, their habits, their beliefs, they rub off on you in ways you might not notice at first. If you want to think beyond limits, the company you keep has to reflect that desire. Surrounding yourself with big thinkers isn't about showing off or competing. It's about growing, expanding, and rising to new levels of possibility. Because the truth is, you become the average of the minds around you. Big thinkers aren't just people who dream. They're people who act on their dreams. They challenge themselves. They push boundaries. They see obstacles as opportunities to learn, not reasons to quit. They don't settle for the status quo. When you're around them, you feel the energy of possibility. You feel the pull of ambition. Their conversations aren't about what's easy or safe. They're about what's possible, what's next, and what's worth fighting for. Being around people who think small, who focus on limits and problems, who complain or give up easily, that drains your energy. It dulls your vision. It pulls you back into the same old thinking. You might not notice it right away, but slowly, their mindset becomes your mindset. If you want to break free, you have to be intentional about who you let into your inner circle. Look at the way big thinkers talk. They ask questions instead of making excuses. They say, "How can I?" instead of "I can't." They're curious, hungry, and willing to take risks. They believe in growth, not just for themselves, but for the people around them. When you listen to their stories, you feel inspired. You feel like you could do more, be more, and that feeling, it's powerful. It moves you forward. Choosing who you spend time with is one of the most important decisions you can make. It's not about being picky or exclusive. It's about finding people who lift you up, who challenge your ideas, who support your growth. People who hold you accountable when you're slipping. People who celebrate your wins, big and small, but don't let you get comfortable. Sometimes, that means stepping away from people you care about if they don't share your vision or values. That can be hard, but it's necessary. Your growth demands it. You can't climb to higher ground while dragging around heavy weights. Surrounding yourself with big thinkers is like upgrading your mental environment. It clears the clutter. It brings fresh air. It gives you space to breathe and grow. You also become a big thinker when you choose to be. It's not just about who you hang out with, but how you show up in those relationships. When you share your ideas openly, listen with curiosity, and challenge yourself to think bigger every day, you add value to the group. You raise the level of conversation. You become part of the energy that fuels growth, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. Big thinkers are not perfect. They fail, they struggle, but what sets them apart is that they don't let those moments define them. They learn fast, they bounce back stronger. Their mindset is built on possibility, resilience, and action. When you're with them, you start to see that failure isn't the end. It's a step on the path. That's a lesson you need to hear again and again. It's easy to underestimate the power of your circle, but if you pay close attention, you'll see it everywhere. Your friends, colleagues, and mentors influence your moods, your choices, and your beliefs. They affect your habits and your confidence. If you're around people who doubt their own potential, it's hard to believe in yours. But when you're around people who believe in growth and possibility, it sparks a fire inside you. Think about the conversations you have. Do they energize you or drain you? Do they challenge your thinking or keep it small? Do the people you spend time with encourage you to dream bigger or settle for less? These questions are not about judging others, but about protecting your own growth. Because growth is fragile, it needs nurture, support, and the right environment to thrive. When you commit to surrounding yourself with big thinkers, you're making a statement to yourself. You're saying, "I deserve better. I'm ready to grow." And that commitment changes how you show up in the world. It gives you confidence. It sharpens your focus. It inspires you to take action even when it's hard. You start to see possibilities where you used to see limits. Big thinkers inspire more than just ideas. They inspire courage. They inspire persistence. They inspire you to keep going when your mind wants to quit. They remind you that you're capable of more than you believe. And that reminder, that connection, is priceless. Find people who are better than you in some way. People who have done what you want to do. People who think bigger and push harder. Learn from them. Listen to their stories. Absorb their mindset. But don't just follow them blindly. Bring your own voice. Bring your own courage. The goal isn't to copy. It's to grow into the best version of yourself. Sometimes, big thinkers challenge you in ways that make you uncomfortable. They question your excuses. They call you out when you settle. They push you to face truths you've been avoiding. That kind of discomfort isn't easy, but it's necessary. It's the pressure that shapes diamonds. When you resist, you stay stuck. When you lean in, you grow. You don't need a large crowd. Even a few powerful relationships can change everything. Quality matters more than quantity. A handful of true supporters and challengers who think big and act bold is worth more than 1,000 voices that keep you small. Remember, your mind is like soil. If you plant seeds of doubt and limitation, that's what grows. But if you plant seeds of possibility and courage, you'll harvest a life beyond limits. And the people around you are the gardeners of your mind. Choose wisely who you let tend your growth. When you commit to big thinkers, you join a movement of people refusing to settle. You become part of a culture that celebrates growth, resilience, and bold action. And in that culture, your mind expands. Your vision clears. Your potential becomes visible. Surround yourself with those who dream bigger than you, those who work harder than you, those who refuse to let fear decide their story. Their energy will ignite yours. Their belief will strengthen yours. Their success will show you what's possible. This is how you build a mindset beyond limits. Not alone, but together with others who believe in more. Not by shrinking yourself, but by rising alongside those who inspire you to be greater. Because when you surround yourself with big thinkers, you don't just change your mind, you change your life. Chapter 5. Visualize what feels impossible every single day. Every day, your mind holds images of what you believe to be possible. But if you never allow yourself to see beyond those images, your world stays small. To think beyond limits, you have to practice something powerful and simple. Visualize what feels impossible every single day. This is not about fantasy or wishful thinking. It's about creating a mental picture so clear and vivid that your mind begins to believe it's real, even before it happens. When you visualize, you're training your brain to focus on what you want, not what you fear. You're sending a message to yourself that bigger things are within reach. Your mind can't tell the difference between something you see vividly in your imagination and something you experience in real life. When you replay success, breakthrough, or victory in your mind, you start to program yourself to go after it. Most people don't use visualization because it feels strange or impossible at first. They think, how can imagining something change my reality? But the truth is, your brain is wired to respond to repeated images and thoughts. When you picture yourself achieving something that feels out of reach, your mind begins to search for ways to make it happen. It lights up opportunities you might otherwise miss. It sparks ideas. It builds confidence. This practice is not magic. It's science mixed with intention. The more you do it, the stronger your belief becomes, and belief is the foundation of every success story. You have to believe before you can achieve. But belief often doesn't come from outside. It comes from the images you create inside your mind. Visualize not just the outcome, but the process. See yourself waking up early, working hard, facing challenges with courage. Picture the obstacles, but imagine yourself moving through them with calm and determination. Feel the emotions that come with success. The pride, the joy, the relief. When you bring these details into your mind, it becomes more than a dream. It becomes a plan waiting to unfold. When a thought says, "This is impossible," counter it with a clear mental image that says, "This is possible." Do it daily. Make it a habit. The repetition builds momentum. Your mind grows familiar with the feeling of success. It starts to expect it. And when your mind expects success, your actions align up with that expectation. You work smarter, you push harder, and you don't give up when things get tough. Visualization also prepares you emotionally. When you practice seeing yourself succeed, you reduce the fear of failure. You become less afraid of taking risks because your mind has already rehearsed the victory. This lowers the resistance inside you that says, "What if I fail?" Instead, you replace it with, "I'm ready for this." You don't need elaborate techniques or hours of practice. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference. Find a quiet moment. Close your eyes. Picture the impossible clearly. Imagine every detail, the sounds, the colors, the sensations. Let yourself feel the excitement of achieving what now feels out of reach. Make it real in your mind. The key is to believe the images you create. Don't dismiss them as silly or unrealistic. Those pictures are the seeds of your future. The mind can grow whatever you plant. When you plant doubt and fear, you harvest limitation. When you plant clarity and confidence, you harvest growth. Many successful people credit visualization as a secret weapon. They didn't just hope for success, they saw it, felt it, and expected it. That expectation fueled their determination. It kept them moving forward when others stopped. You can do the same. It's important to remember that visualization is only part of the process. It must be paired with action. Imagining success without effort is empty. But when visualization guides your daily work, your focus sharpens. You notice opportunities. You stay motivated. You build resilience. When you visualize what feels impossible every day, you expand the boundaries of your mind. You train yourself to think bigger. You give your mind permission to explore ideas and paths that were invisible before. This is how limits begin to disappear, one mental picture at a time. Don't wait for external proof that something is possible. Create the proof inside your mind first. Make your mind a place where success lives. Build a mental environment that supports your biggest dreams. When you do, your reality will follow. Challenge yourself to see beyond your current circumstances, even if it feels uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Keep visualizing. Keep painting that picture with as much detail and emotion as you can. Over time, the impossible becomes not only possible, but inevitable. Your mind is a powerful tool. How you use it shapes your future. When you visualize what feels impossible every day, you're not just dreaming, you're building the foundation for a life beyond limits. Chapter 6. Study people who defied all odds. There's something powerful about watching someone defy the odds. It stirs something deep inside you. A sense of possibility, a spark of courage. These stories are not just about what happened to them. They are lessons etched in real life, proof that limits are often only in the mind. When you study people who have overcome impossible challenges, you begin to understand that success is not a matter of luck or magic. It's about mindset, persistence, and refusal to quit. Look closely at their journeys. Notice the struggles they faced, the setbacks they endured, and the moments when giving up seemed easier. What stands out is not just what they achieved, but how they thought while they were struggling. They didn't see obstacles as permanent roadblocks. They saw them as temporary puzzles to solve. Their mindset was different. It was unshakable. The first lesson you learn from these stories is that failure is part of the process. It's not a sign you're not good enough. It's proof you're trying. People who defied odds don't stop at the first failure. They learn, adapt, and come back stronger. They don't let a setback define their future. Instead, they use it as fuel to push forward. Another lesson is how they handle fear. Fear doesn't disappear for these people. They feel it, but they don't let it stop them. They step into fear with a sense of purpose. They understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite it. This attitude separates those who succeed from those who remain stuck. These individuals often have a clear vision of what they want. That vision becomes their compass. Even when the road gets tough, the vision pulls them forward. It reminds them why they started and what's waiting on the other side. Without a clear vision, it's easy to get lost in doubt and distraction. Studying these lives also shows the importance of habits and discipline. Talent alone doesn't carry anyone to the finish line. Consistent effort does. They build routines that support their goals. They prioritize daily actions that others might ignore. This consistent effort compounds over time, leading to breakthroughs. What's striking is their resilience, the ability to recover from hardship. Life throws challenges at everyone, but these people develop mental toughness. They don't let criticism or failure break their spirit. Instead, they see challenges as opportunities to grow stronger. That mindset is a muscle you can build. When you study people who defied all odds, you realize they didn't do it alone. They sought help, learned from mentors, and surrounded themselves with support. Success is often a team effort. Understanding this prevents the myth of the lone hero and shows the power of connection and learning. These stories also reveal how important mindset is in shaping reality. Many started with disadvantages, lack of resources, education, or support, but they didn't accept those as limits. They believed they could change their circumstances. That belief pushed them to work harder and find creative solutions. You learn that patience is part of the journey. Nothing worth having happens overnight. Defying odds takes time. There are seasons of preparation, growth, and sometimes waiting. The people who succeed don't give up when progress feels slow. They trust the process. Their stories teach you to redefine what's possible. When you see someone rise from struggle to success, your own mental limits begin to shift. You start to question the barriers you've accepted and open yourself to new possibilities. This shift in belief is the first step toward your own breakthrough. It's important to not just admire these people from a distance, but to study their mindset and habits closely. Read about their lives. Listen to their interviews. Notice how they think about failure, fear, and success. Let their example guide your own mindset shifts. You don't have to replicate their path exactly. Every journey is unique, but the principles are universal. Persistence, courage, vision, discipline, resilience, these qualities make the difference. They are within reach if you're willing to develop them. When you take time to study those who have beaten the odds, you absorb more than facts. You absorb hope. You absorb proof that limits are temporary and often self-imposed. That hope becomes fuel for your own journey. Their stories remind you that greatness isn't reserved for the lucky or the chosen. It's available to anyone willing to fight for it. It's built day by day through choices, mindset, and action. So make studying these lives part of your daily habit. Let their journeys inspire you to push past your own doubts. Let their resilience teach you to keep going when you want to quit. Let their vision remind you to hold on to your own dreams, no matter the obstacles. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions or infinite resources. You don't need to be born into opportunity. The people who defied all odds started where they were with what they had. They made a decision to keep going. You can do the same. Every step you take to learn from these stories brings you closer to thinking beyond limits. It shifts your mindset from "I can't" to "How can I?" It strengthens your resolve and sharpens your focus. It reminds you that your story is not written yet. Let their courage ignite your own. Let their victories fuel your belief that impossible is just a word until you prove otherwise. When you study those who defied all odds, you find the roadmap for your own journey to greatness. Chapter 7. Replace fear with curiosity and action. Fear is one of the strongest forces that keeps people stuck. It whispers doubts, magnifies risks, and convinces you to stay in the familiar, even when the familiar is holding you back. But fear is not something you have to accept as the boss of your mind. You can replace it. You can choose a different response. You can swap fear with curiosity and action, and when you do, everything changes. Fear comes from the unknown. It's a natural reaction to stepping outside what feels safe. But that reaction doesn't have to control your choices. Instead of shrinking away, imagine what would happen if you leaned into the unknown with curiosity. What if you looked at fear not as a stop sign, but as a signal that you're about to grow? Curiosity shifts your mindset. It opens your mind to possibilities instead of closing it down. When curiosity replaces fear, you stop avoiding and start exploring. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, you see them as puzzles waiting to be solved. That simple shift changes how your brain responds. It creates space for creativity, problem solving, and courage. Action is the next step after curiosity. Thinking about something new can spark curiosity, but without action it stays just an idea. Fear tries to freeze you in place, but action melts it away. When you take a step forward, even a small one, you build momentum. Your confidence grows because you prove to yourself that you're capable. Action turns thoughts into progress. Often people wait for fear to disappear before they act. But fear rarely vanishes completely. The key is to act despite fear. Doing so teaches your mind that fear is not the enemy, it's just a feeling. Feelings come and go. Action lasts, and with every action taken in the presence of fear, that fear loses power. Replacing fear with curiosity and action also requires self-compassion. It's okay to feel afraid. That's normal. What matters is what you do with that feeling. When fear arises, acknowledge it without judgment. Then ask yourself, what's one curious question I can ask about this? Or what's one small step I can take right now? This approach moves you from paralysis to progress. You don't need to make giant leaps. Sometimes the bravest thing is a small action, a phone call, a conversation, a decision to learn something new. These small steps build a foundation for bigger moves. They teach your mind that growth is possible and safe, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Curiosity also fuels learning. When you replace fear with a desire to understand and grow, you open yourself to new knowledge and perspectives. You become more adaptable. You stop fearing failure because you see it as a source of information, not a final verdict. In moments of fear, your body reacts too. Heart races, muscles tense, thoughts spiral. Curiosity invites you to notice those sensations without being overwhelmed. It helps you observe what's happening inside without letting it control you. That awareness creates a pause, a chance to choose curiosity and action instead of fear. This process doesn't happen overnight. It's a skill to develop. But with practice, curiosity becomes your default response. Fear no longer stops you. It informs you. It tells you where growth is waiting, and action becomes a habit, not a struggle. You also strengthen your courage by surrounding yourself with stories and people who model this mindset. Hearing how others faced fear with curiosity and moved forward inspires you to do the same. It reminds you that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the choice to act anyway. Replacing fear with curiosity and action rewires your brain. It trains your mind to see challenges as opportunities. It shifts your energy from avoidance to engagement. This shift impacts every area of your life: relationships, work, health, and personal growth. Imagine waking up each day, not dreading the unknown but eager to explore it. Imagine facing difficult conversations, new projects, or personal goals with a sense of adventure instead of dread. This is the life that curiosity and action create. When fear comes knocking, answer with curiosity, ask questions, seek understanding. Then move. Take one step, then another. Keep going even if your heart races. Keep moving even if your mind worries. Because movement breaks fear's hold. Your potential grows with every choice to replace fear with curiosity and action. You become more resilient, more confident, and more alive. You stop shrinking and start expanding. Remember, fear is natural, but it doesn't have to be permanent. You can train your mind to respond differently. You can rewrite the script from I can't to I'm learning to I'm doing. And when you do, you unlock the door to a life without limits. Chapter 8. Turn failure into fuel for bigger ideas. Failure is not the enemy of success. It is one of its most powerful allies. Too many people see failure as a dead end, a sign that they are not good enough or that they should stop trying. But when you learn to turn failure into fuel, it becomes the driving force behind bigger ideas, stronger resolve, and greater achievements. The moment you shift your perspective on failure, you begin to unlock a new kind of power. Failure is information. It's feedback from reality about what works and what doesn't. When you fail, you're not just losing, you're learning. Every mistake, every setback carries a lesson if you're willing to see it. Instead of fearing failure, you can start to see it as a necessary step on the path to success. Without failure, there is no growth. People who succeed beyond limits don't avoid failure, they use it. They analyze what happened, adjust their approach, and try again. They understand that failure is not a permanent condition, but a temporary challenge. The key is to fail fast, learn faster, and keep moving forward. That cycle of trial, error, and improvement creates momentum. Turning failure into fuel also means not taking it personally. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to get discouraged and blame yourself. But failure is about the situation, the effort, and the process, not your worth as a person. Separate your identity from your mistakes. This distance gives you clarity and resilience. When you look at failure as fuel, you open your mind to bigger ideas. Failures reveal where your current thinking or methods fall short. They point you to new directions and possibilities you hadn't considered. Sometimes the best ideas come from the ashes of failure, ideas that wouldn't exist without that experience. It takes courage to embrace failure. It's uncomfortable and humbling, but that discomfort is a sign you're stretching yourself. It means you're pushing boundaries and testing limits. Growth rarely happens in comfort zones. Failure forces you out of comfort and into discovery. Every big idea starts with risk. Risk carries the chance of failure. When you stop fearing failure, you become willing to take risks. And that willingness is what separates dreamers from doers. The doers understand that failure is a step, not a stop. Failure also builds character. It teaches patience, perseverance, and humility. It forces you to confront your weaknesses and develop strengths. Those qualities become the foundation for bigger success. When you have failed and kept going, you carry a confidence that no easy win can give you. It's important to reflect on failure regularly. Take time to ask what went wrong. What can I change? What did I learn about myself and my approach? These questions turn failure from a source of pain into a source of insight, and insight leads to better decisions next time. Some of the most inspiring stories come from people who failed repeatedly before succeeding. Their failure wasn't the end. It was the start of their breakthrough. They didn't quit because they understood that every failure was a building block. That understanding gave them a sense of purpose and grit. When failure happens, resist the urge to hide or deny it. Face it openly. Talk about it. Share your lessons with others. This transparency helps you process the experience and removes the shame that can trap you in fear. It also inspires others to see failure in a new light. Your relationship with failure shapes your future. If you see it as a catastrophe, you'll play small. If you see it as fuel, you'll aim higher. The choice is yours every time you face a setback. You can let it stop you, or you can use it to propel you. Turning failure into fuel means staying curious and flexible. Sometimes failure means your plan isn't the right one. You need to pivot, adjust, or rethink. That adaptability is a strength. It allows you to keep moving forward even when the path changes. Remember, failure is part of the process, not a sign of defeat. It's a step in learning, growing, and creating something bigger than before. When you view failure this way, it loses its power to hold you back and gains power to push you forward. Every failure brings you closer to the right approach. Every setback teaches you something new about your goals and yourself. Every challenge strengthens your resolve. Use these experiences as fuel to power your next move with greater wisdom and energy. You are not defined by your failures, but by what you do with them. When you choose to learn, adapt, and act again, you become unstoppable. Failure is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter filled with bigger ideas and greater achievements. Chapter 9. Train your brain to seek new perspectives. Your brain has a natural tendency to stick with what it knows. It looks for patterns, repeats familiar thoughts, and tends to resist change. This habit makes life easier in many ways, but it can also trap you in the same mindset, the same problems, and the same limitations. To think beyond limits, you have to train your brain to seek new perspectives. This is about rewiring your mind to look beyond the obvious, question assumptions, and explore different angles, even when it feels uncomfortable. Training your brain to see things differently starts with awareness. Notice when your mind falls into old patterns or quick judgments. These automatic responses keep you stuck. The moment you catch yourself thinking the same way you always do, pause. Ask yourself if there's another way to look at the situation. Challenge your first reaction. This simple habit breaks the cycle of limited thinking. New perspectives don't come from waiting or hoping. They come from deliberate effort. It's a skill you develop by practice. One way to do this is by exposing yourself to new ideas regularly. Read books outside your usual interests. Listen to people who think differently. Watch documentaries or attend talks that challenge your worldview. Each new input broadens your mental landscape. Another powerful way to train your brain is by asking better questions. Instead of "why can't I do this?" ask "what am I missing?" or "what's another way to approach this?" Questions like these open doors. Instead of closing them, they invite curiosity and creativity. They push your mind to explore possibilities instead of giving up. Stepping into someone else's shoes is a direct path to new perspectives. Try to understand how others see the world, their experiences, beliefs, and motivations. This exercise expands your empathy and challenges your own assumptions. When you view problems from different points of view, you discover solutions that were invisible before. Your environment also plays a role. Surround yourself with diverse people who bring different backgrounds and ideas. Conversations with them spark fresh insights. You learn to hold multiple viewpoints without needing to be right all the time. This flexibility is the hallmark of big thinkers. Sometimes your brain resists new perspectives because it feels like losing control or admitting you were wrong. That resistance is natural, but not permanent. With practice, you become comfortable with uncertainty and change. You learn that growth requires letting go of rigid beliefs and welcoming new information, even when it challenges you. Journaling is a useful tool in this process. Write down your thoughts about a challenge. Then rewrite the entry from a different perspective. Maybe imagine advice from a mentor or a friend, or consider what someone with a completely different life experience might say. This exercise trains your mind to switch viewpoints and discover new angles. Creative exercises like brainstorming without judgment help too. Allow your mind to throw out wild ideas without filtering them. Later, review those ideas and see if any spark new possibilities. This kind of mental freedom is essential to breaking free from limited thinking. When you train your brain to seek new perspectives, you also increase your resilience. Problems become less intimidating when you know there's more than one way to handle them. You become less stuck on a single outcome and more open to adapting as you learn. The habit of seeking new perspectives impacts your decision-making. You avoid tunnel vision and impulsive choices. Instead, you make more informed decisions based on a fuller understanding of the situation. This leads to better results and fewer regrets. You don't have to change your mind on everything, but you do need to create space for new ideas. That space is where innovation and growth live. When you cultivate this openness, your mind becomes a tool for discovery instead of a cage of limitation. Training your brain is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Each day offers opportunities to question, learn, and explore. The more you engage in this practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your brain rewires itself to crave new perspectives instead of fearing them. Imagine the power of a mind that constantly seeks to understand more deeply, see differently, and expand its view. That mind finds solutions others miss. That mind welcomes challenges as chances to learn rather than threats to avoid. You can start right now by simply noticing your thoughts and asking, is there another way to see this? Make it a habit to pause before reacting. Practice curiosity. Look for what you might be overlooking. This training makes your mind flexible and strong. It frees you from the traps of fixed thinking. It opens the door to creativity, innovation, and growth. It prepares you to think beyond limits and live beyond the boundaries you once believed were fixed. Your brain wants to grow. It wants to adapt. When you train it to seek new perspectives, you give it the fuel it needs to do just that. Step by step, thought by thought, you build a mind that doesn't just accept limits, it breaks them. Chapter 10. Think 10 times bigger than you normally would. Thinking 10 times bigger than you normally would is not just about having grand dreams. It's about stretching your mind beyond its usual limits and rewriting what you believe is possible. Most people operate within a comfort zone defined by what feels safe or reasonable, but that zone is often a narrow space, confined by fears, doubts, or old habits. To break free, you have to challenge yourself to think way beyond those boundaries, 10 times bigger. When you think bigger, you open doors that were invisible before. Suddenly, the problems that seemed overwhelming shrink because you're looking at a larger picture. Bigger thinking shifts your focus from obstacles to opportunities. It changes your energy from cautious to bold. This shift in mindset is what separates those who live ordinary lives from those who create extraordinary impact. Thinking 10 times bigger requires courage. It means letting go of small thinking and stepping into the unknown. You might feel exposed or uncertain. That's natural. But courage grows when you practice it. Each time you allow yourself to think bigger, you build mental strength. Your confidence grows because you start to see that bigger goals are achievable, not just fantasies. When you aim 10 times bigger, your motivation increases too. Small goals can feel insignificant or easy to quit when challenges arise. But big goals fuel persistence. They give you a reason to push harder, to keep going when things get tough. That kind of motivation changes how you handle setbacks. You see them as temporary hurdles on a much larger journey. Thinking bigger also forces you to rethink your strategy. Achieving bigger goals means doing things differently. It might require new skills, partnerships, or habits. It invites creativity and innovation. You stop relying on the same old methods and start exploring new ways to reach your vision. Your environment plays a role here. When you think 10 times bigger, you naturally seek out people and resources that support that level of ambition. You build a network that challenges and inspires you. This support system is essential because big thinking can feel isolating at times. Having others who believe in big goals keeps your momentum alive. Bigger thinking also means expanding your time frame. Big goals usually take time to materialize. You learn patience and long-term focus. Instead of quick wins, you aim for lasting impact. This mindset helps you stay committed even when immediate results aren't visible. It's important to note that thinking 10 times bigger doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means acknowledging your current situation, but refusing to be limited by it. It means believing that circumstances can change and that your actions can create new possibilities. This balance between realism and boldness is key. One practical way to start thinking bigger is to ask yourself, if I had no limits, what would I want? What would I create? What difference would I make? Let your mind wander freely without judgment. Write down your answers. Then ask, what's one step I can take today toward that bigger vision? This connects big thinking with action. When you think bigger, you also start to think differently about risk. Risks become calculated moves rather than terrifying leaps. You understand that big rewards require big bets. This mindset change encourages you to take bold steps that you might have avoided before. Thinking 10 times bigger also shifts how you see yourself. You start to believe in your potential in ways you hadn't before. That belief is powerful. It changes how you show up in the world. Your energy, your choices, and your attitude align with your bigger vision. You become the person capable of achieving those larger goals. Another benefit of thinking bigger is how it impacts your creativity. When you limit your thinking, your ideas stay small and repetitive. But when you allow yourself to imagine 10 times bigger, your mind generates new possibilities. You connect dots you hadn't noticed. You discover solutions that break old patterns. It's normal to feel overwhelmed when you start thinking this big. The key is to break your vision into smaller, manageable parts. Big thinking doesn't mean rushing blindly. It means planning carefully while keeping your eyes on the horizon. Take consistent steps forward and celebrate progress along the way. Thinking bigger also changes how you handle setbacks. When your goals are small, failure can feel devastating. But when your vision is vast, setbacks become learning moments. You see them as part of a larger story, not the end of the road. This perspective keeps you resilient and focused. Your mindset shapes your future more than any external factor. When you think 10 times bigger, you rewrite your mental blueprint. You create new neural pathways that support growth, creativity, and bold action. This rewiring prepares you for opportunities that smaller thinking would miss. Start by challenging your usual limits. Ask yourself, what if I aimed 10 times higher in my career, relationships, health, or personal growth? What new doors would open? How would my daily choices change? Reflect on these questions honestly and without self-censorship. Surrounding yourself with big thinkers helps sustain this mindset. People who encourage 10 times thinking push you to stay ambitious and focused. Their energy lifts you when doubts creep in. They remind you that big goals are worth pursuing. Thinking 10 times bigger is a practice, not a one-time decision. It requires daily commitment. Each day choose to see beyond the immediate and obvious. Look for the potential that others overlook. Feed your mind with ideas, stories, and knowledge that expand your vision. Remember, the world rewards bold thinking. Those who dare to dream and act 10 times bigger create change. They build businesses, movements, and lives that inspire others. You can be one of those people. The size of your thinking determines the size of your impact. When you commit to thinking 10 times bigger, you align your mind, heart, and actions with possibilities beyond what you imagined. This alignment sets you on a path to a life without limits.